standing in front of a group, talking about what you know, and you can have so many experiences of that. There is a beautiful quote by Emily Dickinson that says, whenever we think, believe, I don't remember the other words, but have opinions, we can be many people. But when we feel, we can only be ourselves. So when we are trying to see, we are probably in our intellect, just like Natasha was saying. And it's time to come down here and forget about seeing and start to feel. Now, what I also want to bring to the table is the fact that if it is feeling awkward and you're not seeing except blurriness, and you come down here, even the awkwardness and the blurriness are teaching points. When you come down here, any experience becomes a teaching point. So even if you are feeling horribly awkward, you can talk about that. How easily we make up a recipe. Sometimes we make recipes out of other people's recipes. And then sometimes we make recipes out of something that worked for us at some point. And it's like, oh, I got it now. I know how to do it. And you want to replicate that without really seeing that the reason why it worked was because of presence and quietness and being open to guidance in the moment. You see? So it is exactly the same thing as getting recipes, strategies from others and trying to implement them ourselves. But we do the same thing with whatever has worked for us. We do that not only teaching, we do that in our marriages, we do that with our diets, we do that with our friendships, we do that everywhere. And it robs us of the possibility of guidance in the moment. And it's challenging to realize that you have to go blank every single day and start at zero and say, okay, here we go. I have no idea, but I'm here and I am willing. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a story to talk about this at a deeper level. You guys like stories? Yes, okay, great. So I have a cousin that moved near the Mayan jungle many years ago. Well, it was like 40 years ago. And, it was a difficult land at the moment. Now it has become a blooming city and everything, but back then it was barely inhabitable. And she had heard that there was this really good woodworker deep in the jungle, an old Mayan elder that worked wood like crazy. And she was very excited about it. And she really wanted to go and try it out. But she had heard that you had to take the piece of wood to him. So he wouldn't find the wood for you. You had to find the wood and then bring it to him. So there goes my cousin, gets a piece of wood, brings it inside the jungle, finds the guy, says, hello, I'm here and I pay my respects. And I have heard that you are such a master woodworker and I have brought this piece of wood for you to make me a table. And so the Mayan elder says, what kind of a table would you like? And she explains the kind of table she likes and she draws the thing and the elder tells her, okay, come back in 2 weeks. Now, when my cousin comes back 2 weeks later, she finds a beautiful table, but it's nothing like the one she had asked for. Completely different. And she goes crazy. And it's like, you are asking for so much money and you are not respecting your client's wishes. And how do you expect? Da, 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 da. And the Mayan elder is just sitting there looking at her in absolute peace and calmness. And he keeps telling her, this is what it asked for. And my cousin was bonkers. She was like, this is not what I asked for, and I am the client. You know, yes, but this is what it asked for. This is what it asked for. And then at some point, my elder had it with my cousin. And he got up and he said, listen, lady, if you wanted a table that looked like that, you should have brought me a piece of wood that asked for that. Do you see the wisdom in there? So this guy, why was he a master woodworker? Because he had the sense of slowing down enough to enter conversation with a piece of wood and understand what the wood was asking for. So every one of his pieces was unique and alive and honest and beautiful. But you see, my cousin misunderstood because she thought she was the client when in reality, the piece of wood was the client. You see? So slow down, become present. Slow down and present enough to read what the moment is asking of you, what the person in front of you is asking of you, what the group is asking of you. And that has to be a unique experience every single time. It has to. It cannot be reproduced. If only because you are not the same person that you were this morning. You have already seen something new. You have already seen something deeper. You have already felt something different. And now you are here in front of a group, facing silence. In the arts world, there is this, Dorothy will not let me lie. In the art world, there is this notion of you have to face the void every day and it can be terrifying. So as a writer, you face the blank piece of paper, and as a painter, you face the blank canvas, and as an actor, you face an empty space, and you just find the void. And it is talked about with much reverence, but also with much dread. Like, facing the void every day can be horrible, but it's actually the other way around. Facing the known every day, facing the recipe every day is deadly. My brother had a daughter last week. So I have a new niece. She's beautiful. And my brother sends me these videos of her in which she's, stretching herself and opening her hands and her mouth and gesturing like crazy and exploring what she can do, who she can be at that moment. But it strikes me that she just left a reality, which is the only reality she has ever known, which is dark, wet, lonely. There's not a lot of things to do or see or perceive. And then suddenly, in the matter of 5 minutes, she's in a world that is open and bright and surrounded with people and stimuli everywhere. And maybe now developing hands and legs and feet and eyes makes sense, because it wouldn't have made sense 5 minutes before. And she is in the absolute unknown. I mean, talk about facing a void. It is a completely new reality. And yet she's perfectly equipped to deal with it. She is open, curious, available. And she is responding. There is zero stress. I mean, try to imagine if in 5 minutes you were suddenly transported to a completely new reality. I don't know, the sky breaks open and you realize that this was a play and you are surrounded by aliens and it's all a water world. I don't know. I mean, try to imagine it and go through that with zero stress and say, oh, okay, here we are. This is new. Now let me try to find out what can happen here. This girl, she's trusting everybody around her. She's in a complete state of grace and surrender. She needs to be, because otherwise it would be hell. We are perfectly equipped to deal with it. Anything. And to the extent that we can, I am going to say it in two different ways here. To the extent that we can, one, trust that, and second, discover that, we will shine. We will truly thrive. So why do I talk about trust and discovery? Because we human beings have this thing, until I see it, I won't believe it, on one hand. And on the other hand, we understand at some level that if we don't let go and trust it and take the leap of faith, we will never see it. And so we have to kind of play with those two things, trust and faith. And here's where you begin to see the difference between trust and faith, you see? So trust is, okay, I can trust this. I have been testing it and trying it a little bit and it has worked out. But there is the need of a leap of faith. There is that need of a trust, of a step beyond what we have seen. And just like baby Nalu could have been inside the womb, and if she had had any self-notion, she would have probably freaked out of, why am I growing hands and why am I growing fingers and why am I growing feet? And this doesn't make sense in this reality. Why? What for? Why me? I am a monster. But in reality, she's being given everything she needs. And she's trusting the process. She's in complete surrender to the process. And so she comes into this world in absolute trust. Armed with curiosity and a love for exploration. And so here we go. Knowing is the opposite of exploring, you see? So I know this already is the opposite of, I have no idea, let's find out. And we keep hearing in the world of the three principles, when you think you know, that's when you don't. That's because you have made up something. You have conceptualized it in one way or another. And it is not true anymore. It is not alive. It is not in the moment. It has stopped being an exploration of what is this piece of wood asking for? What is the possibility of this moment? And so when we try to impose our ideas and ideals on how this moment should be versus let's start a communication with a moment and see, find out, explore what the possibility of this moment becomes if I bring myself to the equation. There is a lot of talk within the principles that point you to only share your stories. Yes, what you have experienced, what you have seen, what you... Yeah, and at the same time, there is this piece of advice in every tradition that says, shroud your past in a cloud of mystery and don't share anything. You know, that it is not true. So how do we reconcile share your story with don't share your story? Because it's not true. I have a client, a woman that I have been working with for some time, and she blows my mind. She blows my mind because she is so brave and so willing, and she opens up a YouTube channel and she starts sharing like crazy, and everything that everyone else says, oh God, no, I feel so insecure, she doesn't. She goes straight ahead. Now, this woman, whom I have been working for about 2 years in different ways, I know that she has a daughter and that she has a mother and that she struggles financially. That's all I know about her life. I have been working with her for 2 years. I don't know who the father is. I don't know whether the mother lives with them. Oh, and she has a dog. That's it. That's all I know. And it blows my mind because it's like, and she talks about how vulnerable she is and how she puts herself out there. And it's like, yeah, but not really. You know, like you do everything, but I don't know whether you're bringing yourself to the equation fully. And of course, when I tell her, but don't you think that a little vulnerability would help? She says, I am being vulnerable. I am recording videos and putting them up there and doing this and doing. So it's a funny thing, courage. Because there are situations in which courage demands that we armor up and go to battle. And there are situations in which courage, what asks for us is to undress, be naked, and surrender. And the human condition plays between these two extremes. It seems to me that she's not free. And the reason why she's not free, I can see that she's not free, is very simple. There are places that she's not willing to go to. That's it. It doesn't matter which places. It doesn't matter why. It's just that there are places that she's not willing to go to. And if you're not willing to go places, you're not free. And so you can only ever share from where you are willing to go to. In a way, that lets us know that she's making it about her. Oh, I am not willing to share this bit of information. I am not willing to do this. I am not willing. Is it about you? Is sharing the principles about you? I am going to go further than that and say, imagine this. Is sharing truth about you? No. But it can only be done through you and with you. And that is a huge difference. So it's not about you, but it's with you, through you. And if there are places you're not willing to go to, it must be because you're making something up about those places. Now, people talk a lot about how this understanding has helped them gain confidence in themselves, and how this understanding has helped them trust life at a deeper level and know themselves at a deeper level, and all this. But this understanding frees you. That's why it does all these other things, because it frees you. It frees you of your own mind. It frees you of your own concepts, of your own ideas about yourself and life and the world. And it just frees you. You know that old saying, and the truth shall set you free? Yes, the truth sets you free. And so when you see truth, it's like, oh, it's not about me. Oh, these things about my story, they're just a story. They're not me. Oh, these thoughts that I am having, they're just thoughts. There is no problem in thinking them, as long as I don't value them. Oh, these emotions that I am feeling, there's nothing wrong with them. They're just valuable information, sacred information that is guiding me through life. And so you suddenly are not afraid of feeling, not afraid of thinking, not afraid of sharing, not afraid of letting go, not afraid of losing your identity, dismantling it completely. And so there is nowhere you are not willing to go. There's a level at which that might need courage. There's a deeper level at which it doesn't need courage, because it's just what it is. It's just what it is. So does this mean that you have to share your story? No, unless the room asks for it. And if it does, you shouldn't have a problem doing it. Does this mean that you cannot say anything about yourself? No, but you don't have to if it's not asked for. Does this mean that you have to cry on stage and speak in a way in which you call everybody's attention and you use rhythm and stance? No, but the moment might ask for that. And if it does, and you really know that it's not about you, you wouldn't have a problem doing it. So it's not a matter of what you should do and what you shouldn't do. It's a matter of if you have seen deep enough, then something will make sense. It's not that it should make sense or it shouldn't. It's that something will make sense and something won't. it's like the commandments. Do you remember the 10 commandments of the Judeo-Christian tradition? There is a rumor that there were 20 and that half were lost. I don't know. But there is also a rumor that they are not commandments, that they are descriptions of how someone acts when they are grounded and love is in their heart. So in other words, every commandment would be preceded with, if love is in your heart, you would not lie. If God is in your heart, you would not kill. If God were in your heart, so it's a description of how, I don't know, grounded people, whatever word you like to use for it, act. If you were grounded enough, you wouldn't mind sharing your story or not sharing it. So what does bring yourself to your teaching, to your sharing? Because the difference between teaching and sharing is you. You see, in your teaching, there's no you. In your sharing, there is you. That's the difference. Teaching is an intellectual thing. There is this knowledge, and we pass it on. Sharing is, there is this knowledge, I have integrated it in my life. It has transformed me in these ways, and I can speak about it and share it only in the ways in which it has touched me. It has been transformed by me also. It has been flavored by me also. One of my favorite images in the world is the dancing dervishes. Have you seen the dancing dervishes in Istanbul? How they dance. So these guys, oh, Trina, you have to look at them one day. They are so beautiful. They dress up with these long robes and these long hats, and they dance themselves into a trance. And they have this, their skirts, they make the most beautiful movements when they dance. But the dance of the dervish is symbolic. So here it goes. The long black hats that they have on their heads represent the death of the intellect, the tombstone. Imagine that. We are killing the intellect when we put the tombstone above them. Yes? And they tilt their heads to make sure that they do not interfere in what is about to happen. They put one hand up like this to receive, and they put one hand down like this to give. So this, of course, this is not beautiful. This is beautiful. Yes, play with me. Now, as it comes in, it flows through the heart before leaving. It has to go through the heart. The wisdom of the broken, open heart. And they twirl. And the movement is understood as creation. This is not enough. I have to bring movement to it. I have to bring action to it. There is a contribution that goes beyond what can happen through me to what can happen with me. Do you see the difference? It is not only allowing something to happen, it is actively collaborating with it. In my very, very, very early acting days, in another lifetime, one day a teacher put us on stage and then said, sit down, all of you in the corner. And now you, one by one, come to the center of the stage. I am going to give you one instruction, and you will have to follow that instruction for half an hour. This is daunting enough, yes? Okay, so you're standing there by yourself in the middle of the stage, and the guy says, make the space yours. That's it. Empty stage. Make the space yours. I would beg you to try it, but we don't have enough time. Maybe later at home you will all stand in the middle of an empty room and say, how do I own this? How do I make this mine? It's a very interesting experiment. But what I can assure you is that every single person did a completely different thing. The way you take ownership of something, only you can do it. And so in this work, the way you take ownership of truth is unique. It can only come through you. You cannot learn it. You cannot imitate it. No one can walk that path for you. They can point you to the path, but you have to walk it yourself. You cannot take ownership of truth. If you don't, you can't. In one of my three principles trainings a long time ago, I got there and I was asked, so what do you want to get out of this 4 days? And I said, I want to embody the principles. And the guy looked at me and said, what do you mean? And I said, well, I want to embody the principles to the point in which no matter which person asks me about it, I can talk about it. I don't care if it is Bill Gates or the Prince of the UK. I don't care. I don't want to care. And he told me, well, those are two different things. You cannot not embody the principles. You are the embodiment of the principles. Now, what you want to do is you want to talk about it without caring. Without caring. You see? I don't mind who is in front of me, and I don't mind who I have been and who I am being. It's not about that. But if you don't mind, then you're free. There's a difference between minding and caring, you know. I don't mind who is in front of me. I care who is in front of me. I don't mind what has happened in their life. I care about what has happened in their life. But I don't mind. I don't mind, but I care. I am in front of a human being or a group of human beings. I care. But I don't mind. I don't mind who you are, who you have been, where you have been, what you have done, what you can bring to the table. I don't mind what I have been, where I have been, what I have done, and what I can bring to the table, and whether I do or I don't. I don't have anything on it. And it's a difficult task getting to see what you have on it, because you can't see it until it's present. And so you can't see it until you start doing it. This work is like learning how to ride a bike. You can't do it through a piece of paper. You can't do it through a book or a YouTube tutorial. You have to actually get on the bike and do it and feel it. It's an experience. Truth is an experience, and sharing truth is an experience. You know who Muji is, this spiritual teacher? Okay. Muji says that this is beautiful, guys. This is so beautiful. Muji says, if there is a choice, there is no clarity. You see? So if there are two choices, that's because there is no clarity. Well, because when there is clarity, there are no choices to be made. Okay. If courage is needed, there is no freedom. If courage is needed, then you have something on it. That is really good news. When courage is needed, that is really good news, because then you know that you are at the edge of your understanding and there is one more threshold to cross. You see? There will always be new thresholds to cross. Always. We will never get to the end of it. But when we get to the next one, it means that we have gotten through one before. So it's like, okay, new one, bring it in. I am going to be vulnerable and share a piece of my story here, okay? When I started sharing this work many years ago, I decided that I was going to do a deal with the universe. So I sat one morning outside in my garden and I told the universe, listen, I don't know if this is what you want me to do, but if this is what you want me to do, you're going to have to bring the opportunities, because I have no idea how to create them. Now, in exchange for you bringing the opportunities, I vow to say yes to whatever opportunity comes, no matter how scary it looks. Boy, oh boy, what did I do? You have no idea of the level of terror that was brought by the opportunities that the universe brought to the table. Now, with time, I have learned something really, really interesting about this. You see, I thought I was making a really good deal. I don't know how to look for opportunities, so you take care of that. Over the years, I realized that, yes, I had no idea of how to look for the opportunities, but I was also terrified of not knowing how to look for opportunities. And so the back of the deal was, I don't want to have to deal with what I'm scared of now. And so I will deal with what I will be scared of tomorrow, and I don't know what that is. Yes. Okay. But I also discovered that it is never our job to create the opportunity. It is always the universe's job. Life is a constant set of opportunities. It's just the ones we see or the ones we don't. And the ones we respond to, the ones we collaborate with, feels like we created them. It's a nice little gift that life gives us. I will make you feel proud of yourself. Ding. Yeah. Now, this is the most important thing that I learned since then regarding this particular story. I have not kept my end of the deal. There have been opportunities that I have said no to. Because they didn't make sense. And so there was never a need for me to keep my end of the deal. There was a need for me to listen to wisdom in the moment, become present, and see what was needed. I will give you an example of a great opportunity that I would have loved saying yes to, but it didn't make sense. I was invited to work in a halfway house. You know what a halfway house is? Okay, I was invited to work in a halfway house of women that had been couples of drug lords and were trying to run away from them. Now, you know drug lords in Mexico. We're talking big time, yes? Now, these are women that are trying to run away from the drug lords, and there are these halfway houses that are trying to help them, but most of them go back, and some of them don't, and all these things. And it's an amazingly exciting project, yes? Amazingly exciting. So there was a huge part of me that wanted to say yes, but I had 3 little kids. I was living alone with them in the middle of Mexico. And I was going to be subject to be a target point for the drug lords if I helped the women. And I knew, oh, if I didn't have kids, I would so do this. But I do. And it doesn't feel fair to them. So you see how I did not keep my end of the bargain? But I did not keep the end of the bargain because I was listening to wisdom. And I was not conforming to a recipe or a deal. And that's the thing. That's the thing. When you say yes to living the principles, you are saying yes to being guided by wisdom in the moment. And you never know how that is going to go. Never. And people are terrified that it will sometime inform them against their intellectual preferences. Yes, sometimes it does. And so sometimes when you are in front of a group, you are informed to be unbelievably vulnerable, and sometimes unbelievably strong, and sometimes unbelievably goofy, and sometimes unbelievably stupid, and sometimes even blow it up just to teach a point. And even that, like if the message will get across, I'll get sacrificed. No problem. I'll get crucified for the message to get across. No problem. Sometimes that's how it goes. But you have to bring yourself to the equation. I mean, up to that point, yes. And when you do, miracles happen. Teaching. Teaching is about a lesson. Yes? Teaching is about lessons. When my middle kid was tiny, he lost everything. Everything. He lost his caps and his sweaters and books and lunch boxes. He lost everything. I mean, he would come home without a shoe from school. Like, how do you lose a shoe? But okay, I was desperate and I tried everything. I tried explaining to him the value of things. I tried trying to teach him how to be responsible. And I tried shaming him and guilting him. I tried everything and nothing worked. And one day, in the middle of the night, I woke up with this in my mind. How do you know that your child is not going to go through horrible loss in his life, and you are teaching him to be responsible for it? You are teaching him to feel guilty and ashamed. So that day I stopped. But I started reflecting on, what am I teaching them? And I realized something really interesting. It is not my job to bring the lessons that they will need, because I have no idea what they will need. Besides, life is pretty good at bringing lessons. And it knows the ones you need. So what do we do? If it's not my job to bring the lessons to my kids, what is my job? To love them through the lessons that life brings. To be a companion through the lessons that life brings. But not to teach them anything. Life will take care of that. So I don't bring lessons anymore, but I do share what I know. You don't know what your clients need. You can share a bit of truth with them. And truth and love is what gets us through the lessons. It's the only thing that gets us through the lessons. Yesterday, I got some really, really bad news. A couple of years ago, I had been working with a 19-year-old kid who was deep into drugs and depression and all sorts of things. Now, this kid was the son of a multi-billionaire Indian man that had gold mines in Africa, and unbelievable story, okay? Unbelievable story. And one day he just fell into my lap and I was asked whether I could help him, and I tried and I did, and he was clean and he completely changed his life around, and he started working with the Father and doing things and business and traveling the world. And amazing story, right? So beautiful, so beautiful. And yesterday I learned that the private plane that he and his father were traveling in fell and they both died. And so I'm like, here I was 2 years ago trying to save him from drugs. What for? Right? Like, who knows? It could have been a better life, or a different death, or not a death, or I don't know. But what role we play is and will always be a mystery. But the reason why I'm sharing this is because I sent a message to the mother, and she told me that her tragedy, that is what she called it, her tragedy has no way out. It was her only son, and they're both gone, and she's left with a multi-billion empire, but alone. And she tells me, my tragedy has no way out. I don't know how to get through this. And the only thing I could tell her is, no, you don't. And you will never know, because it's not you that gets through it. It's love that gets you through it. The love in you for them, the love of them for you, and the love of everyone around you. But you see the lessons? You see the lessons? What do we know about what they need? We don't. We can just bring love and companionship and truth. But we bring it with us. With us. There are no lessons to be taught. There's just truth to be discovered. Your best possible gift to the world is your grounding. To the world, to your work, to your kids, to your friends, to your family, to you. The only thing you can bring is your grounding. That's it. That's the only thing you can bring. So when you show up, what do you show up with?
My grounding.
Your grounding.
Yeah.
And then you see, oh, I have something on speaking with a loud voice. What is that about? Let's get rid of that. Oh, I have something about talking about my story. What is that? Let's get rid of that. I have something about talking to males that have white hair. Oh, what is that about? Let's get rid of that. Oh, I have something. That's the made up. You get through the made up. You show up with your grounding. The grounding of my new niece is unfucking believable. Like, I don't know where she got it, but oh my God, her grounding. Attention, our attention reverberates. It amplifies whatever we are paying attention to. So our grounding is there. But if we pay attention to our grounding, it amplifies, it reverberates. You see? Now, innocence, which is what I see in my new niece, an unfucking believable grounding, but innocent. She's not aware of it. in the process of her life, she will make up a ton of stuff that will interfere with her grounding. And then she will have to become aware of it. And she will have to get rid of all that stuff that she made up. So the path is from innocence to consciousness. But we must travel that path, because otherwise there's a beautiful grounding, but it's completely innocent. So you're not using it. You're not showing up with it because you're not aware of it. It teaches, oh boy, does it teach. Yes, I have learned from my niece in the last week, which has been the only week of her life, a ton. But she doesn't know anything about it. So she can't use it. So it is helpful for anyone who can see it. If she can't see it, it's not useful for her. The grand tour of the human life, from innocence to consciousness, from inhabiting fully who we are to not knowing who we are, trying to find out, going to one gang, another piece of friends, one university, one other, until we come back to who we were, to who we are, to who we always have been. David Bowie said that aging is a wonderful process in which you slowly become the person you were always meant to be. Yes. You have to lose yourself to find yourself. In order to wake up from something, you need something to wake up from. So yes, you just show up, but you show up aware. You bring your grounding with you. You become present. You listen, and you see what is needed of you, what is being asked. This is what it asked for. What is your kid asking of you today? What are you asking of you today? What is the weather asking of you today? What is your client asking of you today?